Hey, welcome back to HPB Strictly Education YouTube channel. So we're still in chemical texturing series. We're going to do permanent waving techniques today. So let's get started. What is permanent waving? Permanent waving is a chemical process that creates curls or waves in the hair that last for several months. It involves wrapping hair around rods and applying a waving solution. The size of the rod and the type of the solution used determines the final curl pattern. So we're going to talk about the different types of perm rods that are used because sometimes you have to use a different technique because a person might have very long hair and you can't use just a regular rod in the regular way. You might have to use like a piggyback or a double rod or a spiral rod, and we're going to talk about those. The science of permanent waving. Permanent waving involves two main steps that alters the hair. First, the hair is wrapped around perm rods, physically changing the shape. Then a waving solution and neutralizer are applied, chemically treating the hair to hold the new shape. So in the previous videos that we saw, we talked about the cortex, the cuticle cortex and the medulla, where the chemical penetrates the cuticle, goes into the cortex. Once the waving solution is applied, that's where the breaking down of the bonds begin when we apply the solution. But now when we apply the neutralizer then re-hardens those shapes into the new shape. It hardens, it locks it into the new shape. Okay, so remember, we have one that breaks down the bonds, that is the waving solution, and then we have the neutralizer that reforms the bonds, locks it into the new shape. Chemistry of permanent waving. Alkaline permanent waving solution contains chemicals that soften and swells the hair shaft. Opening up the outer cuticle layer, this allows the solution to penetrate into the cortex, the inner structure of the hair. So now remember, in previous videos, we talked about the cuticle and the cortex. The cuticle is the outer layer of the hair, which is what you can see. Okay, remember that the cuticle lays flat and there's like shingles on a roof. These shingles lay flat on the hair shaft. Now what happens is when we apply alkaline, right, an alkaline permanent waving solution, it is ammonia thioglycolate, it's the strongest type of perm, okay? Ammonium thioglycolate. And this is an alkaline perm. Once we apply this solution to the hair, this solution opens up the cuticle because that's what alkaline does. It opens up the cuticle. Now, once it opens up that cuticle, now it begins to break down the disulfide bonds in the hair. It breaks those bonds so that they can be reformed into new shapes. And we reform them into new shapes when we roll the hair on the perm rods. Preparing for a permanent wave. Before permanent waving, hair should be healthy and in good condition. Use appropriate rolls to create the desired curl pattern and follow proper technique. The size of the curl depends on the size of the rod. So before we move on with a permanent waving process, we want to do a consultation to make sure that the hair is in good condition, because if you do it and the hair is in bad condition, that's going to make things worse. Okay, so you want to, if you have to trim the hair, cut the hair, you want to keep those things in mind and speak to your client about those things, before you get started. Now, if you cannot and the hair is not in good shape, then what you need to do is, one, you need to either trim or cut the hair and then treat the hair for several weeks until the condition is better. Okay, and then proceed with your permanent wave process. Reduction reaction. The reducing agent in a perm solution causes reduction reaction by contributing hydrogen atoms to break disulfide bonds in the hair through a chemical reaction. This allows the hair structure to be altered. So a reduction reaction happens with the solution. Okay, so what is breaking disulfide bonds, enabling new curls to be able to be formed. All right, so we have reduction reaction. And when we talk about oxidation, that is when the neutralizer is applied, and this reforms the bonds, so making them into the new shape. Okay. How are the disulfide bonds broken? Disulfide bonds join the sulfur atoms in two adjacent polypeptide chains. Permanent wave solution breaks the disulfide bonds by adding a hydrogen atom to each of its sulfur atoms. The permanent waving solution contains sulfur atoms that can bond to the hydrogen atoms in hair keratin. This causes the disulfide bonds between the keratin strands to break apart. Okay, so here we see the polypeptide chain or side bonds, whatever you want to call it, because this is a side bond, but it's a polypeptide chain. Okay, so the polypeptide chains are here. All right. Now, what happens is here are the sulfur atoms. They're here. When we apply the solution, the alkaline solution, that alkaline solution adds a hydrogen atom to both of these sulfur atoms. That's what causes the sulfide bonds to break, adding a hydrogen atom to the sulfur atoms. Okay, and then they are broken. The sulfide bonds are broken now. Now they can be reformed into new shapes when the hair is rolled on a roller. All right, so permanent wave solution breaks these bonds by adding a hydrogen atom to the sulfur atoms. I hope everybody got that. Reduction reaction. Reduction, remember, by the perm solution breaks the sulfide bonds, enabling new curls to form. Oxidation by neutralizer reforms some disulfide bonds to set the curls in place. So remember, the perm solution reduces the disulfide bonds in the hair, allowing new curls to form. Then a neutralizer oxidizes. Oxidation oxidizes, which means they reform some of the disulfide bonds to set the new curls in place. It locks them in. Step-by-step guide to permanent waving. Permanent waving is a great way to achieve bouncy curls that last. First, shampoo the hair, wrap the hair around perm rods, apply a waving lotion. Rinse and towel blot, apply neutralizer, rinse and style as desired. Okay, so it's nothing hard about doing a permanent waving. It's just very simple steps. So we have reached the end of the permanent waving techniques. So the next few slides will be some Q&A to help reinforce what you've learned here today. If you have any questions or concerns, please write me a comment below or reach me at hbbstrictlyeducation@gmail.com. And I will see you guys in the next video.